On April 4, 1968, Memphis, Tennessee. The sun dipped low over the Lorraine Motel. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. stepped out onto the second-floor balcony of room 306. Below him, the evening was calm, almost deceptively so. A light breeze carried the smell of spring and southern grit. He was in Memphis to support striking sanitation workers. Another battle in a lifetime of battles. He was laughing. The Reverend Jesse Jackson stood below, playfully reminding King to grab his coat. He smiled. And then a crack. A single rifle shot tore through the air and through his neck. King collapsed, blood pooling beneath him, his pulse fading. His associate screamed. Chaos erupted. By the time he reached the hospital, his heartbeat was a whisper. At about 7:05 p.m., the world lost a prophet. A world that had come to depend on his voice suddenly found itself silenced. But what if that bullet didn't come from just one man? Within hours of the assassination, a manhunt launched. The alleged assassin was James Earl Ray. He was nobody special. A small-time crook, an escaped convict with a history of petty crime and a head full of fractured dreams and nowhere to go. Authorities said Ray fired the shot from a boarding house across the street. He'd bought the rifle, they claimed. He left a fingerprint on it. The evidence was wrapped in a bow. Ray vanished, slipping across the border, first to Atlanta, then Canada, then the UK. He was caught at Heathrow Airport 2 months later with multiple fake passports. He confessed, pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty, and was sentenced to 99 years in prison. But something about it didn't sit right. No trial, no cross-examination, no exploration of motive. And just days after his plea, Ray recanted. "I didn't shoot Martin Luther King," he claimed. "I was set up." And thus began one of the most chilling mysteries in American history. Forensic experts maintain that the rifle found near the crime scene was the murder weapon. Ray's fingerprint on the gun and scope bag remains a compelling piece of physical evidence. Ray told a bizarre story. He claimed to have been manipulated by a mysterious man named Raoul, who instructed his every move. From purchasing the rifle to checking into the boarding house across from the Lorraine Motel, Raoul was always pulling the strings. Ray claimed he was never supposed to fire a shot, only to be there. Who was Raoul? Ray could never fully explain. No full name, no confirmed sightings. And nothing on the FBI's files, the name never appeared on official records. Yet his insistence remained constant. He was a pawn. Was Raoul a figment of Ray's desperate imagination? Or was he a handler, a ghost agent managing an expendable pawn? Meanwhile, skeptics pointed to the near-impossible logistics of the shot, the convenient trail of evidence, and Ray's sudden international escape for a low-time criminal. However, critics argue, this wasn't a frame job. It was a clean case. Ray ran, and guilty men run. Could a low-level crook really have pulled off one of the most consequential assassinations in American history, alone? To understand why King was killed, we must look not at Ray, but at his enemies. Who else might have wanted King dead? By 1968, King had evolved. He wasn't just fighting racial injustice. He was challenging capitalism, war, and systemic poverty. His Poor People's Campaign aimed to bring thousands to Washington, D.C. demanding economic reform. Black, white, brown, together. He called the Vietnam War a symptom of a far deeper malady within the American spirit. And those in power, military, corporate, governmental, saw a unifying voice for the working class as the greatest threat of all. He wasn't just a civil rights leader anymore. He was a revolutionary. This shift made him enemies, not just in the South, but in Washington. Military intelligence had eyes on him. The CIA considered him a potential threat. The Southern elite saw him as dangerous. And to some, his evolving message, uniting the poor, speaking against war, and threatening the economic order, was more terrifying than his march on Selma. For some years, the FBI under J. Edgar Hoover had waged a covert war against King. Operation Cianuro targeted him and monitored his every move. They wiretapped his phones, infiltrated his inner circle, and collected private information in an attempt to neutralize his growing influence. In 1964, The FBI sent King a letter, anonymous, unsigned, urging him to kill himself before his filthy secrets were exposed. This wasn't just surveillance. It was psychological warfare. The Bureau labeled him the most dangerous Negro in America. They weren't just watching, they were hunting. So when King was assassinated, some couldn't help but ask, did the surveillance stop being passive? Did the FBI know? Or worse, did they help? FBI critics insist COINTELPRO was about intelligence gathering, not assassination. While their tactics were disturbing, there's no official record tying Hoover or the FBI to murder. In the decades that followed, the King family, especially Coretta Scott King, publicly stated their belief that James Earl Ray was not the real killer. In 1999, the King family took the government to court, not in a criminal case, but a civil one, and it was legally binding. They accused Lloyd Jowers, a Memphis businessman, of participating in a conspiracy to murder Dr. King, with complicity from federal agencies. After 4 weeks of testimony and over 70 witnesses, the jury ruled, yes, there was a conspiracy. Yes, government agencies were involved. It was a legal bombshell, yet major media outlets barely covered the verdict. A family won the truth. The nation stayed silent. Many government documents related to King's assassination remain classified, sealed until 2027. Documents, memos, surveillance logs, silenced. But what's being protected? What truth is so dangerous that it must stay hidden half a century later? Whistleblowers and historians have long demanded transparency, but the government holds firm. Some speculate the files contain names of informants, evidence of surveillance abuse, or worse, proof of a deeper conspiracy involving the intelligence community and how high the conspiracy reached. The FBI claims releasing the files could damage national security. But whose security really? Skepticism doesn't mean silence. It means demanding better evidence on both sides. Maybe James Earl Ray pulled the trigger. Maybe Raoul never existed. But even if that's true, why did so many believe otherwise? Well, until 2027 we wait. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just die. He was erased, strategically, surgically, at the height of his power. And the silence surrounding his murder echoes louder than the gunshot that killed him. James Earl Ray died in prison in 1998, still claiming his innocence. The King family moved forward, but never stopped fighting for the truth. The Lorraine Motel is now a museum. Room 306 remains preserved. The balcony still bears the ghost of a man who dared to dream beyond race, beyond politics, beyond fear. Coretta Scott King said James Earl Ray was not her husband's killer, and she never wavered. So who killed Martin Luther King Jr.? A lone drifter? A ghost named Raoul? Or was King brought down by a nation unable to reckon with his power? As the 2027 declassification looms, the world waits. Will we learn the truth? Or has it already been buried? One thing is certain, this was no random act of violence. It was a surgical strike against a voice that challenged the soul of a nation. And for many, that voice still whispers in the corridors of power. He preached peace and was met with violence. He dreamed of unity and was answered with division. But perhaps the bullet that struck him wasn't aimed at a man, but at a movement. And the question still echoes from room 306. What truth was so dangerous, it had to be silenced? Now, let's hear your views. Do you believe James Earl Ray acted alone, or was he a scapegoat for something much bigger? Should the US government release the remaining classified files about MLK's assassination? Do you think it will confirm a conspiracy? What do you think scared people more, King's protests or his vision for economic equality? Who truly benefited from Martin Luther King Jr.'s death? Drop your theories in the comments. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you believe truth still matters.